So welcome to the TNT podcast hosted by Teen Brunel and Tony Verga.
Hey.
Please find us on YouTube and like and subscribe to our videos. Tony.
Can you sell that a little more about the YouTube and subscribe to our videos? We need people to do that.
No, I know. So Tony, today we have Joe Stapleton. He is a comedy artist. What do we call that? A comedian?
Is it comedy artist?
Yeah.
Yeah, comedian, comedy artist. I always get those two mixed up.
And he hosts the World Series of Poker, right?
Right. Everybody, once you see him, you'll know him.
Okay, so I got a good story.
Okay.
So in the past, I used to be a game show stand-in. And so what a game show stand-in is, when they're running game shows and practicing them, they'll call me in. Because I used to do a lot of game shows. I've won like 4 game shows.
What game? Well, stop. I know the one where you got married.
Well, no, that's not a game show. That's a reality show.
Oh,
That's
tell me
different.
about your game show.
Okay, so my first game show was called You Don't Know Jack, and that was hosted by Pee Wee Herman.
Oh.
It was fantastic. And I
Appropriately
won
named Jack.
$26,000. And then I was on this game show called Cram, where you stay up all night, and they put you in a glass booth on Hollywood and Highland. And it was me and my boyfriend at the time, and the other person was Kato Kalin and, I don't know, some other lady. Anyways, so that one you stay up all night, and you have to memorize all these facts, and the next day you do a physical activity while you answer questions. So
Cram.
Yeah, you have to cram. And then I was on Lingo with Johnny Jenks.
That was great.
Yeah, that was on the...
and Johnny Jenks is a friend of ours who's
Right.
who's an editor at the show.
And it landed on the top 10 TV events on E because one of the words had a P, an S, and a Y on it. And I said to Johnny, I said, say pussy. And he goes, pussy. Because the clue was it's better with cream. And I was thinking pussycat.
Yeah.
And it came out poorly. Anyways.
What was the
we
word?
won. Puffs.
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 Not
yeah,
pussy.
Yeah, it was a P, U, and an S. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I thought, and it was like not in order, so I didn't know where the S went, so it was puffs.
Right. Okay, that's a good one. Did the audience go crazy?
Yeah, they went, it was great.
Okay.
And then
all right, so that's 3.
That was 3. And then I was on the cover, which was they would show you different people on magazine covers, and then you would name who they were.
I got you.
Okay, so I was on as a game show stand-in after that, and there was a game show with Annie Duke where I had to go to the Game Show Network.
And Annie Duke is a famous female poker player.
That's right. I used to play a lot of poker.
Right.
I actually, when I met my husband and we got married, we actually announced our engagement at a poker tournament.
Oh, very classy.
Yeah, on that reality show. And I don't count reality shows as game shows.
No.
That's different.
Different
and then I was
things.
on like dating shows. And
All right, so you get called in.
So I get called in, and I'm like so excited. I'm playing with Annie Duke. The first thing I get is a pair of kings, right? That's my first hand.
Wow.
My first hand. I'm playing against her, and I'm like, I'm all in. Because you gotta,
Yeah.
It's a fast game. We did not get a lot of money. I'm all in. I got called. The guy had a pair of aces, and I was like, what the fuck?
Wow.
My first hand. And I lost. But she really liked my personality, and then I got called back in again, and this time I got to play at her house, which was like crazy. You get to play with Annie Duke at her house. And then again, I lost by going all in early. But
So-
you know what? That goes again with my theory of go big or go home.
Well, you went home.
Yeah, I went home. I went big and went home. So together.
So you did both.
I did both.
Yeah, poker. I mean, when I was a kid, I wasn't a big aces, deuces, one-eyed jack kind of guy.
Right.
But then when poker got big several years ago, all my friends, I was working at Ripley's at the time, they all would have these poker parties. And it was fun.
Yeah.
You know, I'd go with $50, $75. I mean, nobody would really win big money. But I really didn't know how to play. And at least if I was going to lose money, I'd rather do it in Vegas on a crap table.
You know, funny thing is when
So
I
just
look
don't
at
play.
you look like the sort of guy, because when I think of like the Odd Couple, how the men always got together to play poker, I would think you would be a poker
I
guy.
could do that, but I don't know a lot about it.
Oh, right.
You know,
right.
like I go when I go to Vegas just to gamble, I stay downtown.
Yes.
When I go with my girl, I stay on the Strip. But
Right.
I like to stay at the Plaza Hotel downtown. It's a crappy hotel, but it's $30 a night. It's not crappy. It's just $30 a night. I shouldn't say that. But one of the guys I met who works at the restaurant, he moved out from New Hampshire to be a poker player.
Oh, no.
And he will tell me things like, I had a good tournament. I had 2 threes and there was 5 guys playing. So I knew the chance of somebody else having a 3 was 18%. I said, how do you know that?
Yeah.
And then he breaks it down. He goes, well, there's only 4 threes. There's 7 guys. So if there's 7 guys.
Yeah, it's all math.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that's why I failed math. I could care less about the math.
They're constantly, 2 things they're looking at. They're trying to find tells, and then they're calculating. It's constantly calculating. And when you get one of those books, I watched Daniel Negreanu on Master Class, and it's constant calculation.
Another great poker
what
player.
I have in my hand versus what is on the flop. So, yeah, it's too much work.
And you know what else is interesting? When I'm watching poker, and I'll tell Joe this, as somebody who doesn't really know I get it. Highest hand wins, right? Of course, 4 aces. But when they're looking back and forth and there's 2 people left and we know what their cards are, 9 out of 10 times the people do the right thing. They either lay down their cards when they're supposed to,
right,
or they increase their bet. It's like I'm really impressed. It's almost like they could see the cards. That's how good they are.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the guys who aren't that good don't ever make it to the main table.
My husband stopped playing because he said he couldn't get past like the luck aspect. He was like, I'd have the best hand, and then on the river, that card would come up, and then I'd lose. And I'm like, there is an amount of luck, but it's not possible for the same 10 guys to constantly win all the time. It is skill. There is calculations. True. There is the ability to read a person. And that's the fun of it.
That's why I like some of these guys. They sit there, they just have their thing like this. They have their glasses on, so you can't tell anything. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, these guys are really, they're really tough. You know who made it like anybody could do it was that guy Moneymaker. Once he won, remember that guy? Once he won, he was just a regular guy who used to play online. Once that guy won the tournament, everybody who ever won a poker tournament in their neighborhood game thought they could be a professional poker
once
player.
The internet came on and regular college kids kept playing and practicing, that's when they thought that they could go in and play real people.
My parents, they were pretty middle class. The Italian side would play matches. Do you know what that is?
No, it's not.
Everybody would get 1 to 3 matches they could have in their hand.
Yeah.
So there'd be 5 guys playing. Everybody would call, all right, if I'm carrying 2, I think Teen's going to have 3, Mike's going to have 4. I'm going to call 12. And then everybody puts their hand down.
And you have to count.
And you have to count who has the,
yeah.
That was one game. And then the other one.
That's fun. That's something like kids could do.
Yeah.
Fun.
You get 3 or 4 people with 3 matches.
Yeah, we should do that.
And you could have 0 matches to 3 matches.
Okay, I like it.
So if somebody called 12 and there was 3 people or 4 people playing, you'd have to figure they had 3 because they're calling high, right? So we would do that, and then we'd play liar's poker. Do you know what that is? Or the nickname was bullshit with dollar bills.
Okay, no, tell me.
No, you would have a dollar bill, and they all have little numbers, right? So we would call pair of 6s. You would call a pair of 7s.
Right.
You would try to, but you can lie, right? If somebody called 4 7s, if I started with 2 7s and they said 4 7s, but I didn't have 7s, I'd call bullshit because they'd have to have 4, and we'd play for the dollar. And that's called liar's poker or bullshit. That was a big game on the East Coast. But money changed hands.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
You could win 10 or 15 bucks, and if you did that, you were good for the night.
Did you ever gamble with your parents? Because I would gamble. My dad would teach us how to play this game. He had no problem taking our money, whatever it was.
No.
Dollars, quarters. He'd just be like, it's mine now. And
no, my dad never took our money.
Oh, yeah, that's...
I'm sorry. My dad never took our money.
It's very Asian.
No, we would just, and if we did play poker, it was aces, deuces, and one-eyed jacks.
Oh, right. I take my kids' money now. I mean, if we go to Target and I buy them something, I'm like, you're going to pay me back. And when we get home, I'm like, $3.
Yeah, no, and Pokino, do you know what that one was?
No.
It's kind of like bingo, but it was Pokino. We'd put penny in the pot. the big winner would make 40 cents. Yeah, Teen, it was different growing up with, my grandparents were immigrants. My parents were born here, very middle class, and they did not teach me how to gamble
Yeah,
or
you gotta
take my money.
learn. Well, you gotta learn the hard way. It's real life, But that's what you do when you get together, with our family is they drink. Everybody gets drunk and
drinking
red in
is
the
one
face
thing.
and then get aggressive and yell at
Wine,
each
or was
other.
it alcohol?
Oh my God. My father would drink beer, but my sister is such an alcoholic. She drinks wine.
How old's your sister? Older or
My
younger?
sister is 9 years older than me, and
Okay.
she's just a horrible person now. I mean, like my dad,
I didn't
he
mean to
never
bring it up.
wants to see the kids because he's like, I go, why don't you come down and see the kids? And he's like, I already had kids. Why should I go down and see your kids for?
Oh, he's a cuddly grandfather.
Yeah. And then my sister's the same way. You go over, you bring the kids over, and she's just watching like violent movies on the TV. And then recently I said, hey, I want to come by and see you. Maybe we can come by next week. Toy Story 4 is coming out. We can go see the movie. She goes, I don't like kid movies. I don't want to go see it. And I was like,
how old are her kids?
She's 9 years older. Her son is 27. He still lives at home. It's very sad. Wow. I have so much to talk about.
That's a whole other thing.
I'll tell you all
and they all live out here now. Nobody's in Michigan.
They all live out here. I have an aunt in Michigan.
Did the whole family migrate? Like, did everybody leave Michigan and come here at one point? Or did you come first, then your dad?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what happened. So we all went to Michigan because my aunt lived there and my grandmother insisted.
Right off the boat,
Off the boat. Literally, we all got to go to Michigan. So we all go to Michigan because she's married to a GI in a small farm town. My father hates Michigan. He wants to go somewhere with Vietnamese people. I did not know there were other Vietnamese people in America because I thought they were all related to me because I only ever saw 6 people.
Right.
So then he goes down. We go down to Texas for a while. It was me, him, and my brother. We drove down and lived in Austin, Texas. My father was never at home. We had to and I was only in
Was he working?
5th grade, yeah. He was working. Stayed there for a while, then went back to Michigan. And then we went to California when I was a sophomore in high school.
Now, who's we? You?
It was me, my dad, and I've got 2 brothers and a sister.
Okay.
And then I lived with my grandmother and great aunt in Michigan, but as I got older, my grandmother stayed in Michigan. My other great aunt moved to New Jersey to see her family. So we all moved to California.
Hold on. Did I miss something? Did she pass? Was there a mom? Did she pass? I don't know. I mean,
you don't know the story. Okay, so I did an entire documentary on this. My mother did not come with us to America. She got left behind.
Her choice?
No, it was not her choice. Growing up, I was told it was her choice. At the time, she was 8 months pregnant when we left. My father always said to me, your mother doesn't love you. She does not want to come.
Wow.
Okay.
And here's how you play poker.
Right, exactly. Your mother doesn't love you. She doesn't want to come. She
boy.
never wanted to come. Fine. So meanwhile, she's living in Vietnam and she's writing letters. And I'm just constantly told, your mother doesn't want to come over. She's trying to come over. Eventually, I came over here when I was 5. By the time I was 9, she died. She tried to come over several times on a boat, and it didn't make it. She had my sister in Vietnam, so she was 8 months pregnant when we left. And then a month later, she had the baby. And so they both died.
How on a ship?
Yeah, on a boat, yeah.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's tragic.
I know, I did a
And
documentary.
how old were they?
Well, my sister, I was about 9. I believe my sister was almost 5.
Oh my Lord.
And then my mother, I don't know, she was in her 40s at the time.
So you're talking about 19, what year is this?
I came over in 75, so she
79.
died about 79, 80, yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And I remember the day my dad just came over and he's like, your mother is dead. And I was like, okay. We don't need to miss her. I said, okay.
Wow.
And that was it. And then they're always like, you don't miss your mother. She was a horrible person. She didn't love you. And I didn't realize then it was their way of making me, supposedly that was what they thought to do to make me not sad.
Yeah.
To forget your mother.
Well, now that you're an adult,
yes.
Does Dad talk to you any differently about it, or does it ever come up?
So the reason I did a documentary was because I was in my relationship with my husband, and I thought to myself, I don't think I can get married and be a mother because I'm going to be a horrible mother, because my mother was a horrible mother. And my grandmother always told me, you're just like your mother. You're a horrible person. So I thought I was going to be a horrible mother. So I thought I would do a documentary and figure out why she did not want to come. I don't understand why. And then it turns out she wanted to come the whole time.
Mm.
But when we fled the country, my father, we had a store, and my aunt, when I went back to Vietnam to do this documentary, my aunt and my mother were together at the time that this happened. My father came to the store and said, I'm taking the children. We all need to go to the airport right now. They're bombing the city, which at the time it was May. They were bombing the city. We had to flee. My mother said, I need to close up the store and hide the money, because if we don't make it, we need to have something when we come back. He says, we don't have time. We got to go now. She goes, I got to close up that store, because my father has had many mishaps in the past that lost them a lot of money. She did not want to risk that. So she does that. He takes all the children and we go to the airport. The airport's being bombed at this time. There's nobody at the airport. My father is in the Air Force, so he knows how to fly a plane. So we get there. My mother, by the time she makes it, she's on a motor scooter with my aunt. They've bombed the bridge. She can't cross. She can't make it to the airport. So my dad's waiting for her. The children, me and my brothers, we all go on a plane. We go to Thailand. My father flies another plane himself, and he cannot wait for my mother anymore, and she doesn't make it. It's a very complex story. Really, we can get into it another day. Anyways, but...
Well, hold on.
What?
I know it's complex, but okay, we will get into it another day. And then I have nothing. Like, I have nothing that could compare to that. That's pretty brutal. And that tells me, now I understand you a little better. So I'll cut you a little bit of slack. But man, now how do we make the rest of the show funny?
Well, my life after that is hilarious.
It's a laugh riot.
I have to tell you, but that's why I tell you all the time. I take every opportunity that comes, because you just never know what's going to happen.
I hear card shuffling. Somebody's here.
Okay. Well, our guest is going to be Joe Stapleton. So after spending a few years in LA attempting to make it as a comedy writer in 2006, Joe Stapleton settled as a blogger in the professional poker world. And now he makes poker fun and funny for the World Series of Poker.
Blogger in the poker world. That was a tough sell back then, probably.
Well, in 2009, he landed his big TV break on the Fox series The Big Game as the comic relief and color commentator. And that's what he does now, is color commentary for
Let's get him in here.
All right, let's see him. All right, so I want to welcome Joe Stapleton to the TNT podcast. He has been the comic relief for the past 2 years for the World Series of Poker live on ESPN, and you are the opening act for Norm Macdonald on a comedy tour.
Sometimes when I'm available and he's available, he'll take me with him on the road. That's a dream come true. That's a whole other thing. I should have. It was very weird hearing you guys read my bio, because I wrote it. Right? It's not like someone else wrote it. And I notice all the things I hate about it now, specifically that I'm not working at the World Series of Poker anymore, even though I walked in with one of these shirts.
Yeah, look at that shirt.
And I'm not sure what to say about it, because I definitely...
Did you get fired? What?
Well, I want them to hire me again in the future. So all I'll say is I'm not working with them this year.
Oh.
Not yet.
You know what? But let me tell you. You will.
This is the thing, man. I'm not a poker guy. I had told Teen before this. In so much as I grew up and we played cards with the guys. Yeah. When it really hit, I was working at a TV show, Ripley's Believe It or Not. Everybody had a poker show. And to make it funny is not easy. Yeah. You know what I mean? When you were given that opportunity, how did you say I'm gonna try to bring humor into poker? Because these guys, when you watch them, a lot of these guys don't seem fun.
Yeah, so I'm not the person that invented making poker commentary funny. There were a couple of guys that came before me, namely Gabe Kaplan.
I was going to say Gabe Kaplan. He was my favorite.
Yeah, and Gabe's point wasn't to be funny as much as my point is to be funny, but he was funny doing it. And of course, Norman Chad is the guy who does the World Series of Poker, and he's more of his thing to be humor, because obviously poker knowledge isn't it. So
Wow.
so he was
Take
funny.
that.
And so I was like, I want to do that, but I want to update the humor is what I want to do. I want to make pop culture references. I want to be use memes. I want to sort of make something that and also I want to pack it full of jokes. And what my vision, oh, that's so douchey, right?
Yeah, no,
What
go
a
ahead.
I can say that F word?
Yes.
Yeah.
What a fucking turd.
No,
But my
I don't-
vision was that, and it's also not only is it douchey, it's also sexist. My vision, because my vision was if someone's girlfriend is being forced to watch poker, I want the girlfriend to find me entertaining.
Okay, that's great.
And that is a little bit of a sexist viewpoint to say that, hey, only a girl can only be watching poker because of her boyfriend. But hey, look, it was a different time. It was 2009 when I had this vision, this sexist vision. But I still stand by the sentiment, which is I want if someone who isn't that into poker, who happens to overhear it, who's never seen poker before, who stumbles across it to go, this guy's kind of funny. And then they stick around, and then maybe they fall in love with poker after that.
Now, based on what you said about Norm, I'm imagining you know a lot about the game as well, right? Is that what you know? You
I mean,
know
you
a lot
you
about
have
the
to.
game, so
You have to.
Well, Norm apparently doesn't, right?
By the way, we're talking about two different Norms.
Norm Chad.
Oh,
Norm
I
and
see.
Chad, yes.
Right.
He knows the game.
Norm and Chad absolutely does know the game. That was me taking a personal
Oh,
a joke,
Yeah.
a shot
Okay.
at him. But I'll say this, and he would admit to this, he doesn't know the game as well as the top level players do, and neither do I.
Okay.
They're
So-
not calculating percentages in their head. You know enough that you know the names of, Big Slick, and you know what he's doing. You know that he's calculating it, right?
So that's what I thought it took to know poker.
Right.
Knowing poker, I mean, you could fill that whole bookshelf over there with various theories and math having to do with poker, stuff that I can't even begin to break down. So to talk about just like knowing the nicknames of the hands and stuff like that, that doesn't even register anymore. So what you've got to know, people want the book knowledge now.
Right.
And so what I had to do to get on television to sell my vision was to say, but I'll also be that guy. I'll also be the guy that is talking about poker theories and poker terminology, not like the back alley cigar stuff, like the math terminology. I'll be the first person to talk about that on TV as well. I didn't know it at the time, though. And so they hired a coach for me. And we would go over everything I was going to say on TV before I would say it. And he'd be like, nope, this is stupid. This is not an actual poker theory. This is some TV bullshit that's no real poker player ever would consider this. And I then became the first person to talk about stuff like VPIP on a poker broadcast, which means voluntarily put in pot.
I knew that, T. You probably
And it's a
didn't
way
know
of
that.
calculating the number of times. It's basically how active you are, how many hands you're playing. And these are statistics that poker players have been keeping track of for years, and we were the first TV show to do it. Now, none of that was my idea. I also didn't know how to explain it, so I can't take credit for that. But what was really cool about my first gig was that they let me be nearly as funny as I wanted to be, and also I got to be this really brilliant analyst at the same time too, quote unquote brilliant. And I was getting tons of help with that part.
Right.
Did you get feedback from the players? Like,
The entire show is based on feedback from players. Basically, I worked for a company called Poker Stars, and the guy that owned the company, it was owned by one guy,
Yeah.
loved poker players and just wanted to make them happy. So he would actually go on online forums and see what people liked and didn't like about poker TV, and said, I want to make a new poker TV show. And he listened to everybody, and we ended up making this show called The Big Game, which was incredibly fun. To this day, regardless of my involvement, I think it's maybe the best poker TV show that's ever been.
Do you have to read a lot of books, or are you just relying on the analyst to coach you?
Back then, it was just relying on my coach. Yeah, I didn't. There weren't a lot of even books at that point that sort of had this sort of terminology in it.
Mhm.
Now there are lots, and they did exist. But basically, yeah, me and my coach, we would watch the hand, and he would explain to me all the things that were happening in the hand, and I, on my own, probably could have got the 20%. 20% of it I would have gotten. 80% of it is other stuff. I was like, oh my God, I never would have noticed that. Oh, geez. And then 10% of things I'd be like, can you explain that to me again? I don't even understand what you're saying.
Who do
That's
you
tough.
enjoy watching play? What player?
There's a guy named Phil Locke. You guys might have heard of him. He is the one that dates Jennifer Tilly. They've been together for a long time. Otherwise, Phil used to be called the Unabomber. No one really calls him.
That's
That's
the
it.
guy with
That's
the-
it.
I was trying to think.
It's really funny is because that era of poker, right, is long gone. But that's all anyone remembers.
I know that was the golden age of poker.
It really was. And so I came right after that.
Oh,
right after the golden
My
age.
husband, my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, he was a Nielsen guy. He had the
Yeah.
Nielsen box, and we would watch poker all the time. And we're like, man, we are causing so many poker shows
you
to
so
be
much. Thank you
made
so much for that.
because we are watching it on the Nielsen box, and we would push it every time. It was
I was
fantastic.
working at Hard Copy. I worked there in between 95 and 98, which was a tabloid show. And I was in Vegas when they were shooting Rounders.
Oh,
Oh, right,
wow.
yeah.
So I'm like, when I go to Vegas, I play craps and I don't know what I'm doing, but I just like the energy of it.
Nobody knows what they're doing. It's fine. Don't let people tell you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Nobody knows.
If I bet on a 12 and a 12 hits, I'm happy.
Yeah,
it
But
doesn't,
anyway,
it doesn't
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
matter.
right. But I saw the whole poker thing then, and I would never have in a million years thought that in 10 years there's going to be TV shows
Right.
Well, okay.
watching people
So-
play poker.
This thing happened called the poker boom right
Mhm.
after
Right.
that,
right.
which was a fella by the name of Chris Moneymaker won
Yeah.
$3 million at the World Series of Poker. And so when you ask people why they got into poker, they'll say one of two things generally. People like 30 and up. The Moneymaker winning the World Series main event and Rounders. Rounders is the other thing. Rounders actually caused a little mini poker boom. And then when Moneymaker happened, Rounders became popular again. And it was these are the two things. That's why there are so many poker TV shows from 2003 to like 2008 because of these two things.
So what was it about Phil Locke that you enjoyed?
Phil Locke is hilarious. Like, I'm a guy that I think I'm kind of funny, obviously, or I wouldn't do what I do. And I sit back and watch Phil and I'm like, I can't make this any funnier. He is just off the top of his head, hilarious. I have no idea what he's talking about half the time. Just such a funny guy, affable guy. One of these guys who, if you were gonna think about your like quintessential poker movie character, right? Like the wisecracking guy who takes your money and he's real good, but he's so charming while he does it, you don't even mind. That's him.
Right.
Like, that's him.
Okay, who's the worst?
He's trying to get a
Person-
job with the World
well,
Series
no,
of Poker.
Well, maybe we don't need to mention it.
It is a trope that of the poker player in the hoodie and the sunglasses and the headphones. That trope versus players who play incredibly robotically, players who are basically what happened was poker, these personalities that were on TV, right?
Yes.
They were poker for a while. And then what happened was a bunch of nerds
Right.
figured out that these guys were all playing poker terribly. Like, they were the best, but they actually weren't playing very well at all. And a lot of people now have figured out the optimal way to play poker in every possible situation. And those folks don't always exhibit a lot of personality at the
Yes.
table.
Right.
Yeah, like the Helmuths and guys like that
Helmuth,
who were yelling. And,
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, well, that was
Fun,
the
yeah.
show.
But
right?
but many people believe that if you take Phil Hellmuth and you put him up against these guys who don't do that, who show almost no emotion at the table because they're processing calculations at hundreds of times a minute, that that Phil Hellmuth will get worked by them, will become penniless.
Right, but do people want to watch great poker players, or do people want to watch entertaining personalities?
Here's a really awful answer. People don't want to watch poker at all.
Oh.
I rest my case.
They don't want to watch
Is this the
poker
death
at
knell?
all. No, poker is not profitable on television. Poker was profitable on television from the years of 2003
Mhm.
to 2009 because online poker sites were buying commercials during
Yes,
poker shows.
that's right. That's
But
right.
since there are no more online poker sites, no advertisers want to advertise during poker. It's changing a little bit. It's slowly getting there, but it's just not. Poker doesn't get the ratings. The people who like poker love it and will watch any poker show.
Right.
But if poker really had a big audience, I would have big time this show so fucking hard. If
Yeah.
I drove up here in anything other than a Nissan Altima, I wouldn't have driven up here at all.
So what happens now? I mean, is there
Can you transition to something else?
no, not
We're
you.
trying.
Can poker transition? I mean, is it going to be dead forever? Is that what you're saying? I mean, pretty girls
Poker-
can't fix it up.
poker
Dancing
is-
girls.
I don't think so. Especially not something like that. Especially,
Well,
it's
you know
not
what I'm
woke
saying.
enough. I mean, look, the World Poker Tour did add a bunch of models to their cast a few years ago. They're doing okay. That I'm not saying that World Series of Poker and World Poker Tour aren't. They're fine. It's just that to do another. Nobody wants to do a new show. Nobody wants to do a new poker show because it's just so hard to
Right.
turn a profit. Now, poker itself is alive and well. Poker is doing really well. The numbers are up everywhere.
When
in
you say that,
America.
do you mean TV or do you mean at the?
In
at
Vegas.
the tables?
In Vegas.
Yeah,
At the tables, okay.
Tournament turnout. I just got back from Vegas. I was there last weekend. The World Series of Poker this year did a kickoff event for $500, and they had over 20,000
Holy
entries.
Moses. That is fantastic.
Holy Moses!
Yeah.
Holy Moses, holy moly.
Holy shit.
I
Holy-
like to be.
Okay, I got you.
nicer about that.
So that's interesting because it seemed like from someone, in TV doesn't mean I know anything about it. I kept saying, well, this is interesting. Poker After Dark. There's poker on ESPN. There's all these poker things. At what point are we going to be saturated with poker? And especially these personalities, started to wear thin, right? Like how many times could Helmuth get mad at somebody for bluffing?
And there
on them?
definitely was an oversaturation, but the online poker sites didn't care.
Right.
They were straight up paying for a lot of their shows
Mhm.
for the airtime. A lot of poker on TV is actually an infomercial.
Last thing I want to ask before we get to all these personalities that we saw, and there were dozens, right? And they were all different. They were some of them were cool. It's like wrestling in some respects.
Mhm.
You hated certain heels, you liked certain guys. Annie Duke was cool. Some of the women were cool. When you got to know these people, how much did these people have to change their persona because they knew that they had to be personalities? Do you know what I mean? Like, did these people?
I don't know if anybody changed their personality. I think what happens is it just amplifies whatever personality
I
you
got you.
already had in there.
So Helmuth was a little bit wound tight to begin with.
For sure. And Helmuth is what the reason he reacts the way he does is because he is passionate.
Mhm.
The way it comes across to me is that he comes across like a 12 or 13-year-old. The way
Right.
that everything is so dramatic,
Mhm.
Mhm.
everything is so important all the time that he has these outbursts. Yes, he is just as much has that same sort of childlike excitement and or distaste for things outside off the poker table. It just doesn't have as many outbursts because the situations we're in aren't as intense.
Mhm.
He doesn't freak out at a waiter, because he doesn't care that much at the poker
I want it
table.
in medium rare.
It's exactly like Phil's, very rarely does anything bother him off the table that I've ever seen. And if it does, his reaction, he does have emotions, but they're not
I got you.
outbursts like
Are
that.
these guys still grinding at the poker table?
Yep. Almost every single one of them.
What are they going to do? I mean,
That's
really?
it. That's all they can do.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And
That's
that's
their job.
good.
No, it's
Very
that's
few
their job.
actually retire. Yeah. That's why I like my size.
I've always wanted to just get old and go to Vegas and be a dealer. That's what I want to do.
You could do that.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be because everybody loves the old Asian dealer.
I was going to
the
say
golden
you
nugget.
fit in, but I don't know
It's
what's okay to
fantastic.
say.
That's
anymore. It's a
that-
joke that doesn't have to be
That was
made.
great
I'd
in
be
2000.
perfect.
Yeah, no, you
No,
would
no.
be good.
Yeah,
Well, you could be. I could see you being a casino
I'm totally going
host,
to do that.
not giving some poor bastard his room.
Yeah, I'm going to be a total bitch about it.
So
Don't
you
touch your money.
You have the one that says, "Ay-ya."
I know, that's what I do.
I remember first I was playing blackjack in Atlantic City one time,
Yeah.
and I was sitting at the last, and I made a dumb.
Uh-huh.
I split something I shouldn't have split, and all the Asian people to my right were like, "Don't sit there! Don't sit at the. Come over here, sit here." And they put their own person.
Yeah, I'm hoping one of these days gambling's really going to catch on in Asia, I think. I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
feel
I'm
like
totally going to put on an accent. That's the whole thing.
So listen, we were talking before about your other career. We talked about Norm a little bit. I guess you travel with Norm occasionally. Norm Macdonald now, not Norm.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
different Norm. We're
How
gonna we're gonna Norm pivot right now.
Okay,
How
go
much
ahead.
stand-up do you do? Like, you do
Not
local?
enough. Not enough. So because I have a good other job that keeps me very busy, and so basically I moved to London to do poker commentary. Like in 2013, because like I said, poker on TV in America evaporated after the government banned online poker.
Right.
And so I went to London and I was working like 2 days a week. So I was like, I gotta do something else. So I started doing stand-up because I was the funny guy that didn't do stand-up, which was stupid. It's like being a chef that doesn't cut vegetables. So I was like, I gotta start doing stand-up. Anyway, long story short, I am in Los Angeles, and yes, Norm has started asking me to open for him on the road. I don't do as much stand-up as I should. That's where we were, because all the stand-ups I know, they do stand-up like 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of those nights, depending on what city you're in, like if you're in New York, you're doing like 6 nights a week, but like 3 or 4 shows or open mics a night. And I do it like twice a month.
Oh.
You
I just assume that when you're doing stand-up, you're just
You're always
going.
grinding
You're
it
always
out.
going
You
to the
should
comedy
be.
club and signing
You're-
up and then going
You're
out.
supposed to be,
stand.
but like my last work job I had, I did 17 days straight of live commentary in Monte Carlo and Montenegro, back to back.
Way better than
This
stand up.
this is amazing.
From noon until 1 a.m. for 17 days straight. So there's 17 days I'm not doing stand up. And then when I get home from that, the last thing I want to do is like land and then go to some shit open mic at the Mexican Village Cantina and not like do all of the marijuana and watch all of the Netflix
But you
and
would
have
kill
all
there.
the sex with my girlfriend.
You would kill there if you.
No, I do go there. That's my actual open mic. But the problem is it's just a bunch of other fucking sad fuck comedians and no one laughs at anything anyway. Everyone's just on their phones the whole time. It's miserable. So I'm like, I don't do it enough. I should be doing it more. I'd probably be a much better comic. I'm okay. I'm not a bad comic.
Now, you said because of your other job, and that other job is the comedy.
The
the poker
comedy.
commentary.
Yeah.
And also, I've like a weekend of, let's say I have like a great stand-up comedy gig, right?
Yeah.
That might pay me $100.
Mm.
That would be like a lot of money to make doing stand-up. $150. I make a lot more than that doing
Wait,
poker
right.
commentary.
so when you're working 17 days, is that enough to last you, 2 months or?
It would last a normal person probably 3 or 4 months, but it lasts me about 2 months.
You probably like to have a good time, I'm thinking. You
Oh my
probably
God.
like to have the nice dinners.
I am the most fun person to be friends with.
How
Wait,
can we set that up?
How much are you working? Like, how many times a year?
A month
How many,
or a month?
Well, I want to know how many days a year you're working.
It's really hard to say because it fluctuates. Like I was expecting to work 17 days at the World Series of Poker this year. That's not happening.
Bastards.
But the Montenegro gig I just did, I didn't do that last year.
I see.
So
I see.
it's I've been doing this since 2009, not ever knowing when my next job's going to come. You guys are freelancers,
Yeah.
aren't you? You
Yeah.
get
No,
it.
we're not, but we were.
You know what I mean,
Yeah.
though.
So what do? They call your agent, or you just connect with them? You try to make buddies. What do you
Agent.
got?
Oh my God, I got to write that down. Put that in my act. I have an agent. That's hilarious. Wait, I do have an agent now, but no.
It's very new to you.
No, what I was like a
What do they can just call you, or just like,
yeah.
I like
People
that
usually
guy?
a lot of people get in touch on Twitter.
Oh.
Hey Joe, I've got a. Can you follow
God,
me
I
back?
gotta get a Twitter
Have
account.
you ever been to Montenegro before this?
No.
All right, so you fly into Montenegro. What's your first? Hey, I'm here in Montenegro. What do you do?
You guys are I'm the worst person ever for this. You know why?
Why?
Right.
You're
'Cause I was
smoking
just like,
weed.
boy, I hope my phone gets signal soon. That's like my first thought. It's like I really want to check Twitter right now. And we're like
Really?
driving through this beautiful countryside,
Oh,
like this
no.
seaside country. And I'm just like, God, oh
You're
my God,
one
I get
of
so many
those.
emails I have
You're
to
not
answer
reading
right now.
anything about Montenegro on the way.
You're
Like
not
I
gonna
gotta
figure
have
out where you're gonna go.
I gotta have the meal of.
Wait a
Montenegro.
second. You two seem very smart, but do you think I was on vacation?
No, but still, if I'm working,
The things I'm gonna go and do.
You
Did
had
I-
17 days, but
Did you not hear
He
what
was
I said
working
my
noon to
schedule
7
was?
a.m.
No, noon to 1 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every single day. This is my life. At every stop I go to, I land, a car picks me up. It's usually a pretty nice car. Not a limo. It's a nice car. I'm like, oh, this is nice. There's a bottle of water. Then I get to the casino. I get to have one dinner in the casino. The next day I start doing commentary and I do it from noon until 1 o'clock in the morning until the
you're
day I
worn out.
leave.
Okay.
Now
I
the
just
day-
Googled Montenegro food and Boric comes up. Did you have any Boric while you were there?
Borat? That's where you go?
No, Boric. That's what I
Boric.
He's
think.
saying you're working the entire time. You don't even get an extra day to go
There
visit
was-
something?
I probably could get an extra day if I wanted, but most of the time I have another job.
Oh, I see, I
Okay.
see.
Or by the time, like, let's say I'll be in Barcelona this year, right? For like
Yes.
the 9th year in a row, I'll be doing a job in Barcelona in
Mhm.
August. By the time I'm done, I don't want to be there anymore. I want to be home.
Right,
Your own
right.
bed. I got
It's like
you.
if you
Yeah.
work at the mall and you're like, oh, I never shop at the mall. And someone's like, why don't you just stay a couple extra hours after your shift and walk around the mall? You'd
Oh,
be
you're
like,
like-
fuck that. I'm going home.
Do you notice the different women like
I
in
was gonna
Montenegro?
say,
I know you have
But
a
you've got a
girlfriend,
Yeah, it's okay.
girlfriend, so
but
that
you
ruins
know
the
you're
whole
in
thing.
Montenegro.
My girlfriend's very cool, so I can say whatever I like about this Montenegro trip. Montenegro, again, I didn't see much, but yes, the staff there was very attractive.
Are they hitting on you?
Oh, of course,
They're
he's an
friendly.
American.
No, I would say they're friendly.
Are there like random poker girls?
There are, but it's not quite like that anymore. It's like poker is struggling with equality like everything else. And I would say there are way more
And he's super sexist.
good poker player girls now who are
Mhm.
actually on the scene rather than hangers on.
Are you wearing a tux for a lot of this stuff?
No,
Tuxedo?
God, no.
Like, I
gotta-
can see you in Monte Carlo in a beautiful tuxedo.
I
like
wish-
James
You wear a
Bond.
suit though, right? All the guys, all the hosts seem to wear suits.
I wear a suit, but I usually only wear it for like one day
Hmm.
of the event because I only appear on camera by the end. It's
Hmm.
like a voice thing. It's a radio thing.
Oh, I see.
I did one time. We used to shoot sketches
Mhm.
at the various locations, which was kind of fun for one of the shows I did. And in Monte Carlo, I did do a series of sketches in a too small tuxedo because it's a funny image to start
Yeah.
off with.
We love that. Fat man in a
So
little
tell me,
suit.
Norm Macdonald, how did you guys meet? How did this start?
Norm, I went and saw Norm. I was working the World Series of Poker last year, and Norm was playing the South Point Casino. And I went, and I was just kind of futzing around with my friends afterward. I knew he liked poker. I knew he was into poker. And I was futzing around with my friends afterward, trying to decide where we should go. And he comes out of the theater, and I was like, oh, I gotta say hi. He's like a hero of mine. I think he's like top 5 all-time comedians for me. And I just went and said, hey, I don't want to buy. I just want to say hello. I do poker. And he's like, I know you. And I was like, what? Oh my God, fucking Norm Macdonald knows me. And then the next day, I said hello on Twitter, and he was like, yeah, I know you. Well, I'm not senile. Of course I remember you. And then we just started up like a DM friendship from there. And eventually he asked me for some of my videos. He said, you can run any joke past me anytime. And I'm like, holy shit. The funny part about this is that every time like I used to talk to him, my girlfriend would be like, could tell I was distracted. Like even during sex, she'd be like, are you thinking about Norm right now? And I'm
Oh
like,
my
yeah.
God. Oh my,
Yeah, I kind of am. She's like, do you want to go check your phone to see if Norm
oh
answered you back? And I was like,
God.
yeah.
That's a great girl.
Yeah, I kind of do.
This is
And
the
so
worst.
we started, and he asked me to send him these videos of my stand-up, which I did. And I couldn't decide. I go, look, he asked for a video. I go, look, I can't really decide. Here's 2. It's totally different material in both of them. And he never replied. And I was like, that's totally fine. I do this to people all the time. Someone asks me to watch something, read something. I do. I don't have the time, like whatever. Eventually, he ended up never saying a word about it at all. And then eventually says, I want you to start opening for me on the road. And I was like, and I actually didn't even say yes right away. I was like, are you sure? Like,
Are you sure I'm
You
not
saw
that
my
funny?
videos
Have
and
you
just
Yeah.
didn't want me
seen
to
it?
do That's awesome.
Wait, so you're on social media a lot. Do you ever get criticized for either your comedy or whatever?
do I
you
ever
do?
not get criticized?
Yeah,
Would
what
be
do
a
you
better
do?
Question. I'm a fairly vocal anti-MAGA, anti
Mm.
all of this Nazi fascist country we're descending into. I'm pretty vocal about that, which gets me. I think honestly, if I wasn't so vocal about this, I'd probably work more. I think that it has.
That's what they're
hurt me.
criticizing you about, not like whatever you aren't
Not
funny
your
at
act.
the
No,
the
because
WSOP.
I've become so. Yes, when I do appear on television, I do get some criticism of not being funny. Yes, at the WSOP, but usually only during that time, and usually the response is so overwhelmingly positive
Oh, okay.
that
That's
the couple
nice.
of folks, like people, are so nice to me. Like I've just been so fucking blessed.
How does the poker community like you and your work?
They've been from day one just totally gotten me and
Great.
totally been supportive. And I would say that as time goes on, that I used to get like 1% criticism. And then it was like maybe 5 years ago, it was like 10% criticism. And now it's maybe up to like 20%, which I don't know if it just means that people are getting tired of my shtick or I need to change something, or it's just that the bigger audience I get, the more it's going to feel like people are criticizing me because there's going to be more
People
trolls
watching,
out there.
sure.
Yeah, more people watching. But in general, the poker community from jump, like there wasn't it took like a year and a half for someone to write something bad about me on the internet, which, as you know, that's
crazy.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah, because everybody gets ripped.
Yeah.
So I don't use Twitter a lot, and tell me about. I feel like so stupid. I'm like,
What?
Twitter, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you commenting on? Like, what are you saying out there? You just say whatever's on your mind, and then people comment on it, and then it just becomes a big circle of
Sure, there is a
conversation.
lot of that, but there's also, it is instant broadcast, instant news, instant everything.
Is that the only thing you use? You're not on Instagram, Facebook, anything?
I
Is
have
it
all
Twitter?
of them. I would have
MySpace.
I would have none of them. I still got a MySpace.
No,
I would have none of them if it weren't for my job and that I have to have like
I see.
part of a presence online. Also, I need to be able to be like, I got 20,000 Instagram followers. Please hire me for this fucking sausage commercial.
Norm hired him off Twitter, man.
Yeah, I know, that's so cool.
So yeah,
You
so
can have
it is. I feel like Twitter is the real social network, and that you are networking, you are interacting with people you wouldn't normally interact with.
Right.
As a comedy writer, I used to love to write jokes. Was like my favorite thing to do is to tweet jokes. Unfortunately, Twitter has devolved into I don't know if it's evolved, whatever, into a mostly news place where it's mostly news and discussion, and the jokes you see are mostly jokes about the news. And since for me, life has gotten so serious, my Twitter has also gotten more serious, and I would like also, I miss writing jokes. I really do. It just feels out of place when there's a bunch of people being like, another school shooting today, for me to be like, boy, did I have a gnarly fart moments ago.
Yeah. When you were writing jokes, were you writing for other comedians? Like
no, I just loved
okay.
tweeting a joke and just seeing people
Seeing how
respond
it
to it,
landed,
or retweets or whatever. Yeah, it was like probably my favorite hobby for a while.
Did you get that little blue check mark on Twitter?
I did, and honestly, a girl fucked me that night because of it.
What?
Explain it.
What's
Explain
the blue mark?
The blue check mark was like being verified on Twitter, and at first only celebrities got it, but now pretty much anyone can get it.
Yeah.
And so this one year for Christmas, my parents asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I was like, to be verified on Twitter, and they obviously, their heads exploded. They had no idea what that meant. But eventually it happened, and I was out with a couple of girls, and there was like a girl that was like, I could tell she was just like trying to decide if she's going to hook up with me or not that night. And I got the email saying that I was verified on Twitter, and it just changed like instantaneously.
With her?
Yes.
I got to get verified.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was just like immediately was like, oh. Yeah. It was on. It was on. As soon as I told them.
There's a whole world out there we don't know.
How do you know? How do you get verified? Do you get a number of followers?
No,
like 10,
now
20,000?
you just have to like tell them, like you just have to ask now.
It meant more when he got verified.
No, I was right in the middle. It's like I was the first.
What era was that? Was that like 2015?
This is like 20. Yeah. Wait, no, it had to be. Was I living in? I wasn't.
It's
living
when
in
if you got verified, you still got laid. So that's
yeah,
what
it was like 2015.
2015, yeah.
2015, and like I was like right at the beginning of the wave of them just letting anyone and everyone.
Yeah, now you wouldn't even get a hand job.
Now your girlfriend's like, fuck it.
Yeah.
No, now my
I
girlfriend
have stuck with
prefers. Listen to how amazing my girlfriend is. My girlfriend deleted her Instagram because she had too many followers.
What?
What?
She was like, I just don't understand why this.
Was she an
Wait, were they-
influencer?
She wasn't an influencer, but she had like thousands of followers. And she was like, I'm just a person. I mean, she's a pretty, like a hot girl. She was like, I don't want all of this attention. I don't understand why someone would. And so she just deleted her Instagram. She's got another one now with fewer
That's awesome.
followers. But yeah.
What are you doing next? Like when you leave here today,
Yeah.
Are you packing for 20 days somewhere?
No, I actually have the summer off now for the first time in a long time. And, oh God, it sounds so bad. I think I'm going to write a screenplay.
Oh,
boy.
I'm so sorry,
boy.
guys.
You know what? First they get verified, then they write a screenplay.
I've had lots of good ideas in my head for a long time that I've been using how busy I am I moved here to be a writer. That's what it says in the bio. I moved here to be a writer.
A blogger. No, I'm just kidding. Writer.
A writer. I wanted to be a writer. And I never really worked that hard at it. Like I was like, boy, it sure is tough to get a job as a writer. Meanwhile, if some executive producer had been like, give me your pack, I'd have been like, what? What's that?
Where are you from?
I'm from upstate New York.
Whereabouts?
From Albany, New York.
Ah, my second job in radio was in Amsterdam, New York.
Oh, wow. Amsterdam. There's a very racist name that people call Amsterdam, teen. Do you want to hear what it is?
Yeah, I didn't even know that. What is it?
Amsterico.
Amsterdam.
Because there's a lot of Puerto Ricans that live in
You know,
Amsterdam.
I
did
was
not
in
know
Amsterdam
that.
in 1980. I started in November of 81. And it was a depressed Johnstown, Gloversville, Amsterdam was a very depressed area. All the factories were out of business, all the old rug factories.
Because all that pot in Amsterdam.
Yeah, it was, let me tell you, it was, you would think you were in the deep south. Everybody was driving around with pickup trucks.
Okay,
and
so you know what? So when
shotguns.
people say, what's upstate New York like? I say it's like Alabama, but with snow.
Yeah, that's
I did
exactly
not know that. I did
Oh,
not.
yeah.
I just assumed everything in the East Coast,
No,
New York, was
Oh,
a
no,
liberal.
no. Yeah, no. The city is the city,
Right,
New York's.
right.
But upstate, I dated a girl whose dad was a beaver trapper.
Holy
He would
shit.
trap beavers, and I used
And
to
you were
go.
like,
with,
hey, Dad, I'm the beaver trapper now.
Oh!
Whoa.
No, it was just crazy upstate New York. They would say, I'd say, what are you guys doing this week? And they're like, we're going to the city. I'm like, you can drive to Manhattan. They go, no, Albany. They considered
Oh,
Albany the
God.
city, the capital district.
My parents thought if you went to New York City, you would die.
Hmm.
That was it. Like, I remember the first time they let me and my brother go alone as like late teenagers, and they were like, okay, guys, look, there's an emergency number. It was like they really thought that you would just set foot in New York City and you would immediately get stabbed.
Well, I tell you, anything from Albany north was a real
Wait,
shithole.
I want to know more about the screenplay. So tell me, it's a comedy?
I haven't decided which of my many great ideas that I'm going to write.
You have not put pen to paper.
I have tons of pen to paper for outlines. I
Right.
just haven't decided.
He's in
which
his
writing
one.
thought. He's
well,
thinking about
writing
it.
is the
I am-
hardest thing you can do.
I am going to I have a 5 weeks set up, and since I only have that time, I want to be focused. So I've been outlining all of my ideas over the last couple of weeks. And what I'm really going to do, this is so stupid. People probably do this all the time in this town. I'm just going to go full on douche. Is there a Jamba Juice nearby? I have a friend who's a producer who's basically said to me, I think you're brilliant. I love your stories. If you write a movie, I can help you get it made.
Fantastic.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pitch her all of my ideas and tell me which one she's
There you
most
go.
likely to make.
I've got a friend. He does this thing called the mini movie magic for people who are about to write a screenplay, who are like not stuck, but they're like, ugh, I got the outline, but I can't do it. And what he does is he comes in, and he goes, all right, let's see it, and then he helps you write
That's
it.
cool.
And then you do that.
Yeah, that's going to be a great business. in
Yeah,
Los
he does.
Angeles.
He does it. He goes over to Poland. He does it on Skype. Like people are constantly calling him.
He goes to Poland.
Yeah, he went to Poland. He just came back from like this whole like Eastern European tour of teaching people how to do.
You
the
know,
mini
Poland
movie
is the
method.
Hollywood of Central Europe.
He
That's what
wrote
they say.
this. We went to film school together. I was a screenwriter, and so he wrote that Howie Long movie.
Smoke jumper?
Firestorm.
Firestorm. Hey,
Yeah,
Smoke jumper!
yeah, exactly.
You're still alive! I don't know why I remember that from the commercial. I remember that fucking line from the commercial.
He wrote-
It's a great line. Tell him I still know that line.
I'm gonna tell him. Well, he wrote Firestorm, and that was like the end of his career. Like fucking Howie
Oh,
Long
yeah.
ended his career. They were
Howie
about
Long
to get.
ended a lot of careers.
They were gonna get like Bruce Willis and everything. And then Howie Long came along.
Bosworth wasn't
And that was
available,
it.
so
That was
Howie.
it. He was able to get married off of that, and now he's doing the mini movie method. But he's making
And he
money.
was
I bet he
Listen.
makes really good money.
He does
doing
make-
that. Yeah.
Good money, yeah.
It's so sad that people make money trying to get people to, follow their dreams, and all they really do is take their money.
Okay,
It
so
kind of sucks. I'm
so
sorry.
I think in your friend's case, he's doing both though. Like some of those people will write their screenplay, and he's helped. I think that one's what I really agree with you on is used to be this thing. It still exists, probably called the Hollywood Pitch Fest,
Yeah.
and you pay $500.
You'd go from table to table.
So for my podcast years ago, we paid one of my comedian friends for his entry and got him to secretly record it, and we had him pitch the worst ideas that we could come up with. And he pitched a movie called President Baby.
Oh my God.
About now everyone knows that when the president dies, the vice president takes over. This is his pitch.
Right.
And everyone knows that when the vice president dies, the Speaker of the House takes over. But what people don't realize is that the Speaker of the House dies, that it's actually the president's son who takes over. But what the founding fathers never envisioned is what if the president's son was a baby? And he's sitting there and you're hearing these people who just going, and it's such a fucking scam. In the history, no one will ever tell him. There's one girl who told him that one of the ideas was bad. And he goes, I was thinking of writing a movie about a billionaire industrialist who builds a suit out of metal and uses it to fight terrorists. I'm thinking of calling it Metal Man. And the girl goes, I don't really see that working. And he goes, you're sure? A movie about a guy, like maybe it'd be played by Jeremy Irons. I think maybe Jeremy Irons should play the guy. She's like, no, I just don't think that's a very good concept.
So did everybody just play along? Was like, yeah, I like it.
I can see that.
Yeah,
everyone blows smoke up your ass so that you don't complain about the $500. In the history of Hollywood Pitch Fest, 0 scripts have been produced.
Yeah.
See, that's what
some have been bought. A few have been bought over the years, but 0 have been made.
Wow.
And that's what I hate about this town, team.
Yeah, I know. That's why I don't do it.
Is that
anymore.
why you guys charge me to be on the podcast?
It's the only way we
It's
can
only
make money.
$50 to be a guest on this
Come on
podcast.
Listen,
over.
they wanted to charge you $500, and I said make it $50.
I love your job. I love the fact that you get to travel and be funny and meet a bunch of people and then go home and be with your
And then
girl
only be funny when he wants to be
Yeah.
after that. Yeah, that's
Those
awesome.
are those. If those were the only aspects of it, it would be great. No, it is. It does have all of those things, and
But you don't
and
really have to
I'm grateful
schmoozy,
for
right?
that.
You don't have to be like super nice to people you don't like, do you?
Of course, I do.
Oh, I don't like that.
Have you ever heard of Life?
Yeah, it's just life.
Well, I don't. That's
when
why I
you're
work
in-
where I work.
I'm a freelancer. Like I have to be nice to literally everyone. Like I can't say a bad word about anyone ever for any reason because the whole thing, even like the competitor of this company, it might want to hire me
Yes.
the next time. So it is trying to be funny on a live broadcast where there are corporate sponsors. And the show is not about me also. Remember, the show is about the players. It is often stressful.
One thing I wanted to ask you, how much do you have to prep beforehand, knowing the players that are in the tournament? Do you have to write down their bios and write down something funny about each person?
I used to do that,
Mm-hmm.
but now we start covering poker tournaments early. So there are 4, 5, 6, 7, 800, 1,000 people playing.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
doing
you can't.
research on, we're going to choose 6 that we're going to show on our broadcast.
You ever rip anybody that they didn't like? Like when I say rip, I don't mean Don Rickles rip, but rip like,
Very few times. I've done thousands of hours of poker commentary. I've had people at least had to get back to me that people are upset over something I said, like maybe half a dozen times.
you don't have to say who, but when you said it, did you say, oh boy, I think I was over the line? Or were you surprised when it got back to you?
2 of them, I was incredibly surprised. 2 of them, I was like, yeah, that's fair. The other, I don't remember the other.
It's just
rest,
hard
but
not
yes.
to take a shot if it's funny, I'm thinking, right?
For sure.
You're-
And luckily, by the way, I've said a lot of things about me in this broadcast. However, I could have done what I did in the good side without people believing in me and people going along with it and good productions to make me look good. As far as like being funny and stuff. Now, as far as saving me from myself, I've also had a lot of people say straight up, this can't go out. You can't say this. Tons of people. And not because I don't like you or because I don't want you to succeed, but I need to protect you from this. You can't say this.
Great line, Joe, but you just can't say
you can't
But
say
like
it.
what? What sort of line can't you say?
The one I remember the most that I wouldn't have minded going, this is not me saving me for myself. This is just a TV show that didn't want to get canceled. Was someone at the table asked another player where they live. And he goes, oh, well, I spend part of my time in San Francisco, part of my time in New York. I'm bi-coastal. And I just go, oh, well, I've always been bi-coastal curious. And that they would not let go out. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But then there's other times that I've said things that, like, sometimes people will come on with a human interest story about a member of their family being dead or sick or dying, or there will be someone with a debilitating disease at the table or something, and they will do like a package.
Sure.
And I will always make a joke about the package 100% of the time. And when it is more of a sob story, they tend to not let me make a joke. And sometimes they save me from myself for making that joke. There was a woman who had talked about how her father had passed away. And she's like, her last line of the package was like, and, I just know every time I'm playing a hand, he's up there watching me. And we come out of the package, and the joke I want to say is, just remember, only one player to a hand.
Oh, boy. See,
I think that that's a perfectly reasonable joke to make. It's not making fun of his death, or it's
kind
still
of funny.
poker related.
Yeah,
and it's all right, well, as long as he's not helping you.
Yeah.
You need to be in a position where you have fuck you money. I don't know. Is that something like, are you trying to just get to the point where you're just creating your own content and you don't have to?
Is that the dream?
It's a gamble. It's a real gamble. There's this thing now called Twitch, which is people make a lot of money sitting at home and having an audience watch them play video games.
Yes. My kids watch that.
Right.
Crazy.
And so I'm not completely.
You want to do that?
I don't want to do it necessarily, but it is, if I can just work for myself and do my own shtick and do my own comedy and play video games and make a nice living from it, it's possible. I'm not so naive as to think that I could just do that, like snap my fingers and make it happen. It would be a gamble. And also, to become one of those folks, you have to do it 6 hours
all
a day,
the time.
6 days a week.
I mean,
for your
I'm
first
shocked
3 years.
that my kid can sit there and watch this guy play a video game. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to learn. And he talks about what he does, and it's going to be
So that's essentially what I've done for poker on television.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of folks that do it with poker on Twitch. But I live in America where I can't play real money poker online. So it doesn't really do much for me to play poker on Twitch. So that's one thing. Comedy is another thing. I'm constantly developing and pitching TV show ideas for me to host.
And do you act?
I don't really. It's on my list of things that I would do, but I couldn't in good conscience say that I am an actor.
Because you remind me of that guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got a little Charlie Day.
Yeah, Charlie Day.
Funny story, first time I ever did stand-up where my face was on a flyer, the woman Googled me, and there's this big forum thread about Charlie Day looking like me or me looking like Charlie Day, and she used Charlie Day's photo on the poster.
Boy.
So my first ever poster with my name on it doesn't actually have my face on
fantastic.
it.
But he packed him in. Everybody thought Charlie.
That's right. Yeah, it was
Day.
a sellout crowd.
How long, when you moved, how long have you been in LA now?
I moved here in 2002.
Wow, you've done pretty good in 60
but
years.
I left for like about 3 or 4 years to do London. I did a couple years in London and a year in New York.
And then there was Montenegro, and there was
Barcelona. He's going to go to Barcelona.
So when I went to Russia.
And we have to say Barcelona.
Like 2 months ago. And getting a Russia visa is not super easy. And they were like, you need to list all the countries that you've been to in the last 10 years.
Oh my God.
And luckily I just got a new passport. So there was only like a dozen stamps in it. But my old passport had 100 when I counted. I've had 169 stamps
Wow.
when I had to trade it in, and I don't know what I would have done if I had to sit there in that form and fill out 169
Yeah.
different.
That was
Travel,
fantastic. I would have
in 10
loved to
years.
travel
Yeah.
that much.
It is nice, and it's really cool, and I'm very grateful, and I probably wouldn't change anything, but living out of a suitcase eventually
Gets tiring.
gets tired.
Listen, when it's all over, you could buy a gigantic estate in Albany and live like a king.
I've definitely considered it. I've definitely considered, oh man, I mostly travel for work anyway. Why don't I just go live in Albany and actually own a home instead of paying $3,000 a month for a studio in Hollywood?
There you go.
All right. Well, I want to thank Joe Stapleton for coming today. We had a great time. We can't wait to see you at your next comedy stand-up on June 11th, and I'll try to get a Twitter account at Stapes. So I can
We'll be
tweet
out of
you.
town.
Hold on, guys. I've got the
What?
rest of them. Don't get me-
Okay, let's hear
You
it.
can
Let's
find
hear
me
it.
on Facebook, Joe Stapleton. You can also find me on Instagram.
Hmm.
You can find me at Radio Lessons this Thursday. You can find me on Instagram at Instastapes.
Instastapes. But where's your
Hey.
girlfriend? Can we find her?
If you
Because I hear
search,
she's hot.
if you search very hard, you can find her. I'll show you guys a video after this.
Okay.
One of her hot friends posted a video of. Never mind.
Oh.
What else was I going to say? Yeah. Also, my Instagram and my Twitter, not so much Twitter. My Instagram is fun. It's funny. There's content there. I
Cool.
do funny videos. I put up funny photos.
Okay, perfect.
I'm happy. This was good. This
I
was
know.
fun.
I had a great time. Well, thank you for listening to the TNT
I thought this was going to be the
podcast.
Tony and Tina's wedding. I was totally.
Oh,
No,
I was
yes.
so
expecting
wrong.
dinner and
Maybe
chicken
at the end of
parmesan.
season 2.
So wrong. All right. Thank you for listening to the TNT podcast. If you like what you've heard, please give us a like or better yet, subscribe to the TNT show on YouTube. If you want to join in the discussion or have a question, please add your voice to the comments section. We also have a part called 15 Seconds of Fame where one of our audience members can try to find you on a little clip on TV. What do you got?
Well, it's easy to find a lot of my stuff, so I'm going to give you something that's truly difficult to find. You asked if I was an actor. I've been paid as an actor one time. I was on an
Oh.
episode of Mad TV
Okay.
because I worked at Mad TV for like 7 seasons, and a comedian named Matt Bronger did a bit about a drunk reporter. And that's all I'll say. That's my 15
Okay.
seconds of fame.
Fantastic. We're going to look for that. Thank you, Joe, for
Thanks, Joe.
coming.
Thank you for having me. I love podcasts.